is. He showed up.
He showed up.
Well, I got on here and all I heard was a bunch of laughing. I don't know what you people are thinking here, but you learn by now, culinary school is supposed to be drudgery. It's supposed to be work. There's not supposed to be this much smiling and laughing. So I don't know what y'all are doing or what you're taking, anything, but here we are. So, hey, what do y'all want to know? I don't know.
Well, Chef, I totally forgot. So one of my coworkers asked me, and I knew she was talking about an airline chicken breast, but there's an old name from forever ago that they used to call it. Do you know what it's called?
No.
Okay.
I'm only familiar with it. So you have an airline and you have a supreme or a supreme, chicken supreme. Have y'all heard those? I mean, everybody's heard the airline breast. Are you familiar with the other term?
The supreme?
No.
Supreme does not have the wing drumette on it. So just the plain, the airline breast has that first joint of the wing. That's airline. Not because when I was younger, I used to think it's airline chicken because that's what American Airlines and Delta, and that's what those people put. That's the kind of chicken they serve. And seriously, no, it's airline because it has a piece of the wing. Even though chickens aren't really airborne birds, the supreme is just the breast, no wing portion at all. Now there's a breast quarter also, which is the whole wing and the breast with bone. It's bone in. The same way that there's a leg and thigh quarter. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of.
So I think I'm glad you explained that, because although I watched the video a couple of times, I kept thinking in my mind, I don't know why, that the airline breast was that little, seems like flap of meat that they kind of yank off when they cut the breast out. You know what I'm talking about?
That's the tenderloin.
Oh, okay.
So when you go to the fast food restaurant and you buy chicken tenders, frozen, those chicken strips that are breaded and fried, and it takes 12 of them to fill you up. The chicken tenders, true chicken tenders, is that one long, thin muscle in the back of the breast meat, right? Where the keel and the ribs, right? Where they come together, right in that groove right there.
Oh, okay.
You just peel that off. It has a piece of tendon in it up at the top. That's the tenderloin. And so in a lot of restaurants today, they actually just take a breast and cut it in 3 or 4 strips and call it chicken tenders. It resembles the same shape, but it's not true chicken tenders.
Right.
We're going to look at that here in a minute. What else you want to know? Bueller? Nothing?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, we're all gonna get a little dizzy here in a minute. I'm gonna move this camera around so it's just gonna focus right here on my board, and then I'm gonna go to my fridge and get the chicken, and I'm gonna break down a couple chickens. How about that? Is that all right?
Okay, sounds good.
So close your eyes so you don't get. That's not gonna work very well like that. Let's see. I'm going to drop this computer.
Don't do that.
There's only one way to get a new computer around here. Let's see if I can make this go down just a little bit, a little closer. How does that look right there?
That's good.
Maybe move this away from here.
That's better.
Good, all right. Got to put a bold over here so it doesn't need to add some weight. There we go. How's that?
That's good.
All right. Okay, y'all notice I've got a few different knives. So y'all have seen me at least once when we all had food one. I even showed y'all I like to break down the chicken with just my paring knife. And I really, really like this. It's really super thin. It's Swiss, it's German steel, but this is made by Victorinox, which is the same people that make Swiss Army knives. That's the same brand. I like this. You have this in your knife kit. If you, I think you three all have the Mercer brand knife kits. So here's your Mercer paring knife. I'm not going to use that today. This is another knife by Mercer. I like it better. It just has a smaller handle. I might use that. You have your Mercer chef knife. I'm not going to use this this evening. I think one or two. Does both of the videos? Now I understand Jay didn't record those videos. I haven't seen the chicken ones for this week. I've been focusing on some stuff later in the semester. Do they break down chickens with a chef knife, or do they use a cooking knife? They
It's
use
a chef's knife.
Okay. I'm going to show you with one of the three chickens. I don't expect y'all to do exactly the same thing I'm going to do this evening. I'm just going to show you some different approaches to breaking down chicken. You're going to have lots of opportunity this semester. You're going to be picking up. So for this week, you each have 3 chickens. You have 2 different things showed you online. Whether you exactly copy those 2, that's fine. What do you do with the 3rd chicken? Just do something. Going forward, most of the semester, you're going to get at least 1 chicken every week. Not every single week, but y'all just get prepared, because I've placed the order for all the meat and seafood, and you guys online, you guys at home, you're going to get whole round fish, whole flat fish. You're going to fillet them at home, and they're yours. You're going to have all the bones and stuff like that to make stock for yourself at home. You know, the most terrible thing you're going to get this semester is a whole beef tenderloin. Y'all going to get filet mignon for half the week. I know this is a terrible class, isn't it? Just terrible.
It's just awful.
I know you're going to have to just grin and bear it. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to go get those chickens.
While you're doing that, Chef, I have a question about, because I did look ahead and it said something about half a pig. What
Yeah.
will we break down instead of half of a pig?
Whole pork loin and a couple of pork tenderloins. I'll talk more about that when we get there.
We need to have room in our freezer, ladies. And a food saver.
Look, I've been working on it.
Have commissioned my mother's freezer, so.
Okay, look, just while it's on my mind, before I dig into some chickens here, if you guys are interested in saving, keeping parts and pieces, some of this food that you're breaking down, especially in this class, if you haven't already, you can get some fairly economical, maybe a little bit of investment. $100, $150. I would encourage you to invest in a vacuum sealer. You can get a food saver at Walmart. I think they have a couple other brands. We have a food saver here at home. And so all this stuff that I do at home normally, it's just my wife and I here at home. I break down whole chickens for our chicken pieces. If we're going to have fried chicken or something with chicken breast and all those other pieces, we don't eat right away. And so vacuum seal it, throw it in the freezer. A couple of days ago, made some pulled pork barbecue with the little netted pork shoulders that you buy at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, the date on that was 2015. So that pork shoulder has been in the freezer for 6 years. And you'd never know it.
Nice.
There you go. Vacuum sealer, I'd highly recommend it.
Another question, Chef, and not that I think my knives need it, but is there a time that we need to or should that you advise that we come get our knives resharpened at the school? Because I know you mentioned that in Food One at one point.
If they need it, yes. And, if you want to use the whetstones, then, the next time you're at the school, there are those whetstone, the triangle, the 3-stage whetstone systems are in every lab. Most rooms have maybe 2 or 3 sets. And so just find an empty room and, the black box, it's kind of a rectangular black box. Usually right next to it, there's going to be the honing oil. And it's available all the time, anytime with the school open. So is that what you're asking, Juanita? Juanita, is that what you were asking?
Yes, that was what I was asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come on down anytime.
Will do.
Okay. You see the chicken?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I don't know, and I kind of don't really care what YouTube videos look like. I am going to take a second and cut some of this extra fat off, just the fat. That right there. I've got a small sheet pan up here just to the top of the board, and that's where all this extra stuff is going to go. I'm going to leave the tail on. So let's kind of review what I've shown you before, but you'll have this recorded here for you to go back and refer to. We're going to cut this skin where the leg and the thigh and the torso come together. It's just plain loose skin under there. It's all open. So cut the skin open. Okay. Now, the way I approach this, we go ahead and hyperextend the joints. So I grab the leg and the thigh, I turn the bird over, and then with my thumbs, I find where that joint is. You can feel the thigh bone. And when you find the thigh bone, trace it up all the way towards the backbone here until you find the joint. And when you find the joint, put your thumbs right at the joint, push your thumbs in and pull your hands out. So you're taking the leg and thigh and you're taking the joint and you're going kind of in opposite directions. You want to push the joint in while you pull the leg and thigh out. That's going to hyperextend the joint and it's going to pop. You probably don't hear. I don't know if you heard that in the little microphone that I have there.
I heard it.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
I'm glad y'all are tough people and it doesn't make y'all sick. Some people it does. Now, look right here. Okay. I'll try to point things out. The joint is a ball and socket. There's the socket right there. And there's the ball right here. The ball is the end of the femur. That big, thick bone, the largest bone in any animal's body. Even people, the largest bone, single bone in our body is our femur, from our hip to our knee, right through the thigh, from the hip to the knee. I guess we'll call this the knee. Okay. And it's ball and socket. So the top of the femur is a ball and in the hip is a socket. And we've just popped that ball out of socket. Now this is loose. It's important to know that with each of these joints, we want to break the joint. Then we don't ruin our knives by trying to cut through bone. There are special knives to cut through bone. I'll do some show and tell maybe next week with some other knives that y'all don't need to go out and buy, because start collecting all kinds of knives and this gets expensive. So I'm hitting the skin right here, okay? And what I'm actually cutting is all the way back here, all the way back to the pelvis. You see this bit of muscle right here, kind of in between the thigh and the torso. That's the section of meat that we call the oyster. And most chefs want that, prefer that. And if you see, especially senior Chef McAfee, if you ever catch him at the school and we've broken down some chickens, we've cooked some of those chickens, he's gonna be looking for this bottom part of the lower part of the backbone. And he'll be gnawing on the bone, getting as much of that oyster as possible. It's dark meat, it's full of flavor, it's delicious. Leg and thigh. For this bird, I'm going to keep that whole. The next bird, we'll separate the legs and the thighs. How about? Trying to do this and keep it centered on the camera at the same time. Bone in, skin on, leg and thigh quarter. Now for this bird, I want just the breast. We're not going to do airline. I'll do airline on the next bird. So before I break the joint, before I hyperextend the wing, I want to feel where the joint is. And then just very gently, sometimes you can find the joint and cut right through it, because in the processing plants, as those birds are handled, they go down a conveyor belt and the wing joint is really, really fragile. And so if you catch it just right, you end up going right through the joint without having to hyperextend or break anything. Most of these birds that we get at the school, there's not a whole lot of meat. And so for myself, I save the wings to include with the carcass when I make stock. Just a little FYI. Now to remove the breasts, feel the, what do we call the breastbone? Do y'all remember that from Food One?
Kill.
The keel. Well, it's the same word on a boat. That one board on the very bottom of the boat that holds all the boards in and together is the keel. Okay, the keel of the bird is its breastbone, and it's kind of a T. That the keel or the breastbone is the bottom part of the T, and the top part of the T is the rib cage. And so we know that. Now I'm going to score the skin right over the keel. And then pick a side. I'm going to do the same thing on each side. Just kind of like shaving it right with your knife next to the keel. Be careful down here at the narrow end of the breast, because all this underneath is cartilage. And if we're not careful, you leave a part of the cartilage on the breast meat. And when that happens, then it's not going to hurt anybody, but doesn't feel good in your mouth. Do this gently. You hear that?
Yes.
That's the rib cage. So you do this gently so you don't dull your knife until you hit the resistance of the ribs. And then I'll turn this around. I kind of use my fingers and my thumb to pull the meat away from the bone just a little bit. And I keep shaving, as it were, all the way down and all the way around. All right. Let's see if I can get good right there. Do you see this hole right here?
Yes.
Can you tell through the camera the kind of white and translucent around it? I've cut through the cartilage right here. I've cut through the cartilage. And so I want to be very careful that I don't keep cartilage stuck to the meat. If I do, I'm going to eat cartilage. Doesn't hurt you, but you have that chewy mouthfeel. We don't want that chewy mouthfeel. So anyway, here we go. All the way back. Right along whatever bones, the ribs. Making sure I keep the cartilage attached till I hit this fat. Okay, that fat line is like God's way of telling you exactly where to cut. Now, it was sitting right here where you see this red. That's where the keel and the ribs come together in this crevice right here. That's where the tenderloin sits. You find that tendon and you just pull the tenderloin away. See that?
Yes, Chef.
Make sense to you? Now we have just regular standard boneless, skinless chicken, boneless skin on chicken breast. And I'll do the same thing real quick on this other side. Be very careful up here at the top, thick, meaty part, because right underneath is the wishbone. And a fresh bird, all this is wet. I don't know if you can tell, if you can see the bone. My thumb, both thumbs are on the bone and it's broken. You see that where my finger is? Okay. That's very, very easy to break off even with your knife and keep a little bone stuck in the top part of the breast meat. That bone is the number one bone that sends chicken eaters to the emergency room because they swallowed a little piece of bone and got it lodged in their windpipe or in their esophagus. And so We don't want to do that if we can avoid it, right?
Right.
Okay. Tenderloin, breast, carcass. What can we do with this?
Make stock.
What have we wasted?
Nothing.
This little bit of skin and fat that we trimmed off this one bird right before we started, just because it was a lot. Some birds don't have very much. Some birds have even more. It's kind of a judgment call. And this could be used and not really wasted. This, all this skin can be fried, little salt on it, cut it in strips and fry it like bacon. Put that on a salad. It's crunchy, it's fatty. There's a lot of flavor. Not something I'd want to eat every day if you care about your heart. Just saying. All right, let me do one more. And on this bird, okay, that still has a spice in it. It's cold. I picked mine up today when I left the office, and they're still kind of frozen.
Hey, what you gave me last night was still froze too.
Good. Birds haven't been sitting out. Okay, with this, I want to separate the legs and the thighs. Instead of having a whole leg and thigh quarter, separate leg and thigh. And I'm still going to do, I'm still going to do it with a paring knife. But on the other side, I'm going to take off the first 2 digits of the wing, but I'm going to keep the drumette attached, and we're going to pull out an airline breast. Okay, let's start with the legs. Just as we did before, because this is cold, the fat is really, really dense. And so this is good to know. If fat is really dense, kind of like cutting through butter, that wreaks havoc on your blade. Just remember that. It's not bad. It doesn't tear your blade up, but your blade goes duller faster cutting through thick, cold fat. So I'm going to be sure that I cut just to the side of it without cutting into the bird anywhere, into any meat. All right, that's opened. We'll do this side. I'm trying to keep my hands away so I'm not covering up the camera like that. Open this up. Good. Now, before I break that ball and socket joint of the thigh, I'm going to break the ball and socket joint of the leg and thigh. And so I'm going to grab a hold of that femur, and I'm going to grab a hold of the leg. Just like your knees, you only bend one way. Okay. So find that way that the bird bends and then force it to bend the other way, hyperextend it. Okay. You find the joint, and just like we talked about with that thigh joint, okay, one bone side, the other bone side where the joint is, press into the joint. So you're pressing the joint in while you're pressing the long bones in the opposite direction of the way you're pressing the joint. Does that make sense? I hope. So I found it.
Yes, chef.
There you go. You'll feel it pop. You'll hear it pop. Okay. And you'll feel it separate. even though it's all still attached, right? You can see where the lobe of meat kind of comes to a head, and you can see a visible breaking point where there's meat here and there's meat here. Where that separation is, that's where I want to cut. All the way around. And if you found where the joint is, there's my whole leg. And it's not all chopped up, and we don't want chopped chicken. We want a whole nicely separated leg. So let's do the same thing to the other side. Okay. I'm just going to feel, and then I'm going to hyperextend. Good. Visualize the top of the lobe. You tell, my lighting may not be very good. Can you tell what I'm talking about? There is a place where you can tell the leg meat comes to a head right here. If you can't see it, you can feel it. You can feel where the leg stops and where the thigh meat ends, and there's a groove there. That's where I want to cut. You can pull the skin up just so you have something nice and pretty. Leg. Yeah?
Chef, what is a lollipop chicken wing?
I'm going to show you that. How about? So I'm going to do an airline breast on one side, and the other side, I'll separate the wing, but we'll do a lollipop. Okay. Let's get the thighs out, the same as we did on the last bird. We've just taken the legs off, but I've got plenty of bone to hold on to hyperextend those thighs and pop them out of joint. And don't forget that when you pull this up, okay, when you press this up, can you see this bump right here?
Yes, Chef.
That bump, that's the oyster. We don't want to leave that attached to the carcass. We want to keep that. We want to eat that. So it's kind of like we're shaving that top of the thigh meat as we separate this from the carcass. Good. Bone in, skin on thigh. You want skinless? You can just pull the skin off. Thighs especially. You want boneless? Turn it over to the underside. Visualize what you can, but see where the bone is. Feel where the bone is. You see this fat line right on the top of the bone? Start there. Just gently, using the tip of your blade, gently make gentle little strokes that shave the meat away from that bone. Do that on one side. Do that on the other side. You can do that, reach underneath. Got a big piece of cartilage right here. Let's take that off because that's not going to feel very good. I'm going to take this bone and I'm going to add it to my stock. And here I have, like for Asian food, maybe Latin food, very delicious, flavorful, boneless, skinless thigh. Yeah, got it?
Yes, chef.
Yes,
Happy
chef.
days. All right, let's take this thigh off, leave it I'm just going to leave that like it is. Now let's look at these breasts right here. Okay, so Juanita asked about lollipops. Let's do that first, okay? With both of these, okay, I want to take off the first two digits, the wing tip and the winglet. Kind of call this the winglet or the wing flat. Okay. Find the top of the drumette. We'll call that the drumette because it looks just like the drumstick or the leg, but it's a little miniature. So it's a drumette. That's the part that we're going to lollipop. That's also the joint for the airline breast that we're going to leave connected. So with both of these, we just want to take off the wing tip and the flat. Find the joint. Before I break that joint, I want to kind of score around it. You'll cut some tendon just a little bit. I just scored it. I scored through the skin. That's it. That's going to loosen everything up as I hyperextend it and I break the joint open. When I've done that, I'm not cutting any bone at all. This is going in stock. There's not enough in this flat to save for, the Super Bowl or playing cards or having a party at your house or whatever. I'd rather just roast this and add it to my stock. Okay. So now for this, let's take off the drumette and we'll make a lollipop. So again, I'm going to find that joint and I'm going to try to cut under. That's what I'm doing. I find the joint and I'm scoring all the way around the underside of that joint. I don't want to cut too wide and cut off a whole section of breast meat. I want just what's associated with that drumette. Okay. So starting up here at the top, I'm just going to use my hands and my fingers. I'm going to squeeze where the top of the joint is. This is the joint where the bottom, as it were, or the most distal, the furthest away from the bird. This is the joint that connects the drumette to the flat. I'm gonna pinch all the way around, and I'm just gonna try to push that down, if I can, a little bit. And you'll be surprised at how much you're able to do just with your fingers. Now, if you look this up online, you're going to see a lot of people that just go right to their knife. I try to avoid that, at least at first, because you do this a lot with your knife. Obviously, you're going to make your knife dull. So I'm not carving. I'm using my blade. I'm applying some pressure, but not so much that I'm going to bend or chip my knife. It's gentle pressure. So way up here at the top, I'm scraping the bone down. Okay. And I do little bits at a time. You do need to use your knife to cut through the tendon that's at the top. That's going to release a lot. And you keep working it down Now I'm going to turn my knife over and I will kind of scrape. See that? Can you tell what I'm doing?
Mhm.
I'm going to take as much of this skin as I can and pull it around and wrap it all the way around. Now, when I cook this, deep fry it, roast it, fry it, and toss it in a glaze or something. Okay. Look at this sitting here just by itself.
Mhm.
Lollipop. When it's all cooked, this cleans itself up and a person can grab just the bone, and in about 3 bites, they've eaten the. This is a really, really nice appetizer, a past hors d'oeuvre, a heavy hors d'oeuvre party, past hors d'oeuvres, lollipop.
That's cute.
It is cute.
It's not so cute when you have to do 500 of them.
Well, no, I wouldn't think so, but it's still cute.
All right. I believe you then. So the other side, I'm going to take those first two, the wing flat, the wing tip. Hyperextend it. Cut through, save that for stock. Okay. Now, I have a plain breast. I'm not going to worry about that right now because I already did that. Let's just focus on this breast, and we're going to keep this wing drumette on for our airline. Find the keel. Cut through. We need to go down the other side. Just like y'all used to hear me say in Food One all the time, some of us at the culinary school, Chef McAfee, for example, we might, try to show off from time to time, and we'll do like a speed, how fast can you break down a chicken? And I'll tell you, we don't pay any attention at all to it looking good. And if you don't pay attention to anything, then, to do this in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, break down the whole chicken. I have to practice a little bit because I don't do this every day. Chef McAfee, when he was with us, Jay McAfee, when he was with us, sounds like he died. When he was teaching here, he did this all the time in meat and seafood class, and he was the fastest person we had on the faculty. Now, you're going to get up here at the top. You can tell intentionally, I started with the thin, narrow part, and I pulled the breast back, working back to the thickest part until I get to that joint, this joint. Now I want to separate this joint while I work entirely underneath it. And that's going to help me keep it attached. And I can feel where the joint is. So what I'm going to do is cut down and through the joint. I'm still not cutting any bone. Carcass, I do have one breast to take off here eventually. Skin on, breast, airline, breast. Okay. You can see the difference. The difference is that wingtip, or the drumette, not the wingtip. Okay. You
A
could,
question, Chef.
yeah.
Because to me, that airline breast just there, it's not the prettiest thing. So I can't visually see it in plating. What would be the purpose for having an airline breast on a plate?
So somebody said in about the mid 1970s that that's the way to go. And so it stuck in higher end plating.
Mhm.
Oh, remember, oh, y'all were in the summer, weren't you, for food too?
Yes.
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 One of the things we talked about was height. When you cook this, you'll get some height. I, for one, just like you, Juanita, I don't have any use for it. There's not much meat there. And if this is just for show, this is one step removed from putting that mint on your cheesecake. Y'all know how I feel about putting a mint leaf on the cheesecake when you didn't use mint anywhere. Okay. Yes, there's a school of thought that if you cook protein, if you cook meat with its bone, you get more flavor. But I think that's true for beef. And it's because of the bone marrow. There's not enough bone here. If this were part of a whole bone in chicken breast, maybe I forgot to take the tender off. There you go. Maybe that's useful if I don't have a need for this.
Okay.
Now, that's me. Some of what we do in meat and seafood, you should just be aware of the in-person classes. What you're doing the same cuts, the same stuff as the in-person classes, but you're doing this for yourself. You get to keep those 3 chickens. The meat and seafood classes yesterday, the AM and PM class yesterday, everything that they broke down was vacuum sealed and is used by the culinary school later. And if food 3 or food 4 is asking specifically for airline breasts, then there you go. I would like you to do both. Maybe one chicken with Supremes and one chicken with airlines and the other chicken freeform. I really don't care. But you need to have this experience. You need to be able to know what this is and know how to do this when you're asked to do it. Because in some places, they want this. Like anything else, it depends on the chef. It depends on the menu of that restaurant. It depends on so many things. So the ability to do both at a moment's notice is important. What you think is tasty, what you think looks better is in the eye of the beholder. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Y'all stand by just a second. I'm not even going to mute the camera. I'm going to wash my hands and move the camera. Okay, all right, y'all be careful. We're going on the next roller coaster ride.
So my next question, Chef, so are we cutting up all 3 chickens and sending in pictures of them to you?
So off the top of my head, I believe the assignment I did not change these first couple of weeks. I didn't add to, or we're not changing any of the original assignments. What Jay did before, that's what I mean by doing this. I'm not whipping at flies or gnats or anything like that. What Jay did before, that's what we're sticking with. Okay. And so just pay attention to the assignment. And I think I went through each assignment, but I believe for the most part, they're all kind of the same assignment. So he wants you to cut stuff down. And what he wanted was cut stuff down and then take a picture of your finished fabrication and show that your area is still clean and post that. I'm okay with that for right now, especially just chickens, because we broke down chickens in food 1. We broke down the chicken in food 2. And so really for this first week's lab, it's more of the same. I would like to see you break down at least 2 chickens, and I'd like to see on your display of your fabrication, I would like to see essentially what I just did. And as I've done in the past, like food 2, as soon as we're done, I'll take this recording, I'll put it in my YouTube, and I'll upload it into Blackboard. You should be able to go back and review this later tonight or tomorrow morning if you need this for review. But I would like to see, I have this all on a pile and on a small sheet pan. So, I mean, I guess I could show you. It doesn't really look like very much, not photogenic or anything like that. I would like to see from you 2 leg and thigh quarters, 2 legs, 2 thighs, 2 whole wings, 2 wingtip and flat combined, just those last 2 digits. I'd like to see 4 chicken tenders. I'd like to see 2 chicken breast supremes and 2 airlines. You should be able to do all of that in 2 birds. Now, to one of your classmates who asked, I said the 3rd bird could just be practice. This is also a class assignment. And so I think, especially for right now, chickens are inexpensive. And so it's valuable to have that 3rd bird so that if you jack something up, you got 1 more bird to do it again. If you get it all straight in 2 birds, then put the 3rd bird in your freezer and save that for a whole big pot of chicken soup or chicken and dumplings. Contrary to what it feels like outside, we're not too far away from that season. So seal this stuff up, throw it in your freezer, and you've got stuff for the winter time. Juanita, did that answer your question? I mean,
Yes, it did.
Too much info. I'm y'all know me a lot by now.
Your
Are
book of
familiar with the
information.
movie Amadeus? It was kind of late 80s, I think. It's about the life of Mozart. Anyway, parts of it are kind of a comedy, and the guy playing the King of France that Mozart was writing music for, he didn't have any way of describing what he thought of Mozart's music in any other way other than saying, there's just too many notes. Take some of the notes away and they'll be just fine. There's too many notes. I'm sure that's what y'all say about some of the things that come out of my pie hole. There's just too many words. Take some of the words away and it'll be just fine. I get it. I'm going to cry. Y'all going to make me cry now because I'm so sensitive about being criticized and reviews. No, really. What else y'all want to know?
I don't have any other questions. I think you've answered all of mine.
What I plan on doing going forward is I'm not going to take away those videos that are like is in this current week. Everything else is going to open up by the weekend. I know I said that before, but I fingers crossed, I promise it'll happen. Y'all don't have key terms and stuff like that in this class. So it's
Yay.
Yay.
you post the picture of what you've done and write a little, not even an essay, write a paragraph or two about there's some kind of a prompt in there. Starting next week, I'm probably going to add one other assignment that will be 2 parts. The school, I'm not telling you what to do with this product that you're breaking down at your house, but I think it's valuable to spend a little time with, especially when we do seafood or we do some of these meats that maybe you've never cooked before. Well, go back to food 2. Go back to your repertoire of cooking methods and do something with the food. Do something with an airline chicken breast. And so if I do this, you can expect 2 additional assignments to each weekly lab. After you've broken the stuff down, decide what it is you're going to do. Mise, and I'll want to see a picture of your mise, and then cook it. And I won't be asking for a full meal. If I'm going to ask for a full meal, I feel like I should add to the meat asparagus and Brussels sprouts and rice and potatoes and blah, blah, blah. I don't want you to cook what I want. I want you to start being creative and do something with the food. Hopefully you're going to break some stuff down, and then it might be dinner for your family. Well, show me what you did for dinner. Show me a nice plate presentation. We're not going to critique it and review it like we did over the summer, like we did in food 2.
You're not going to say it looks like something from Denny's.
Well, I might still give you that feedback personally. And April, you know, I can hear okay, this is cafeteria plating. Everything is compartmentalized, or it's Denny's or Cracker Barrel, or, you know, be mindful of those plating principles that we did in food 2. You can tell how each class is kind of adding to, or we're taking from these classes. And everything comes together in this class. So food 2, we learned a little plate presentation. We learned cooking methods. Well, use what you learned and do something with some of this meat. What do y'all think about that? Can you do that from home?
Yes. If it comes to something like something that we've never cooked before or not really sure, could you possibly maybe throw us like a recipe to kind of give us an idea of how maybe we might be able to change it up or something, but so we'll know exactly how to cook that meat or whatever?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because now I don't want y'all to become dependent on a recipe.
Okay.
Not that we're anti-recipes. So April, how about I do this? When I create these assignments and I put a place, I ask for a picture of your presentation of whatever you cooked. How about I add to that assignment this particular cut of meat? You're going to break down whole strip loins. You're going to get about 1/3 of a whole rib roast. You're going to get whole beef tenderloin. And so you're going to get whole sole or flounder. You're going to get whole snapper or grouper or branzino. I think I've asked for 2 different round fish. You're going to get oysters and shrimp, and hopefully we're going to try to score live lobster. You got to learn how to kill live lobster humanely and appropriately. How about I give you suggestions as to the most appropriate cooking methods? I suggest a few cooking methods to consider for this particular cut of meat.
That would be great.
Yes.
I think that's better preparation for what your future would be. Go ahead, Ariel.
I just want to go back to the live lobster stuff. I don't know if you seen the really freaked out look I had on my face.
I saw it. I don't know that we're going to be able to score live lobster for the online class. And that's simply because you have a 3-day window to pick up your product. And flying live lobster is very, very expensive. And so we have 1 day of meat and seafood in person. The AM is Tuesday morning and the PM class is Tuesday afternoon. And so to get those lobsters flown in and they arrive Tuesday morning at the culinary school, there's complications, but that's easy to arrange. To have those lobsters available and keep them live for 3 days is almost impossible. And so we don't want to give you already dead lobster, whole lobster, because the moment the lobster dies, it alters the protein structure, especially in the tail and the claws that are the most sought after meat. And so you have very poor quality by the time you get it home. And if you wait for Wednesday night and I do something here, if I'm able to score a live lobster, I will at the very least demonstrate for you how to humanely, properly kill a lobster and then cook it right away. Some of those, especially the 2 or 3 seafood weeks, I may be demoing a little more cooking demo because, cleaning a scallop, there's really nothing to it. Debearding a mussel, there's really nothing to it. And you're only going to get a handful. Peeling a deveining shrimp, there's nothing to it. Killing a lobster, there's nothing to it. It's just one of those things that in your mind, it's all you. And that's okay.
Okay.
I don't think, I wouldn't count on you getting live lobster.
Okay.
What else you want to know? Anything? We don't have to stay all the way to 7 o'clock if you don't want to.
So just because I'm curious and I'm a little adventurous
And Juanita's going to ask the question that's going to keep us going. And then y'all remember food too. We're going to keep going to 7:30, 7:45 if y'all keep asking questions. No, really, go ahead, Juanita. What do you want to know?
So with the live lobster, if by chance they got them on Tuesday and we could come pick up our lobster on Tuesday, what would be the chances of us getting a live lobster?
Right now, I can tell you right now it's probably 50-50 chance.
Okay.
And we're talking about the middle of the semester. We're talking about, y'all know how everywhere around us in so many different areas of our life, there are supply chain issues. And you can't go to the store and get XYZ because the store didn't get it yet. At the end of the summer, a lot of the faculty went to Florida for a convention, and every single demonstrator that was flying in company samples and stuff to give, like as door prizes or to give to all the participants, we're talking about 1,200 pieces of whatever, little jars of Tabasco sauce and spice blends from Aaron Sanchez, Chef Sanchez, Food Network, and, was stuck in an airport somewhere and never made it to Orlando. And he probably has it now. Doesn't do him any good. And so that is certainly an issue that we're considering and paying attention to. The in-person classes, because of that, may not get live lobster. It is what it is. And then third, if we're able to get lobsters, we're going to have to make a decision when we order the lobsters if we're even going to make those available to the online class. And so out of fairness and continuity for the whole class, we have different work schedules. We have different availability schedules. Tonight, for example, this is the only time I could do this and add it to an already busy schedule. And, some people just have church on Wednesday night and will never be on this Zoom, but we record it. It's those kinds of things that I have to consider for the entire online class. The lobsters will be very expensive. We're talking as much as $30 per lobster. Now, think about your lab fee. Now, in Food One, it's very easy to complain about your lab fee. You pay $500 and you got tomatoes, potatoes, oranges, onions, potatoes, onions, garlic, potatoes, garlic, onions, and a few more carrots. That's all you got in Food One. Okay, you got chicken at the end. The very, very end, you got a truckload of eggs. You did not spend $500 in your lab fee in Food One. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Food two in raw product is probably, I don't even think you spent an entire $500 in Food two.
Yeah, probably not.
This class, we're going to spend $1,000. I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to break down whole beef tenderloin. Maybe later in the semester, you might even do it again. If you're given 2 whole beef tenderloins just in the semester, that's about $200. These are going to be bigger. These are going to be longer than the $70, $80 tenderloins you get from Sam's or you get from Walmart. These are $100, $120 a piece. Get $200 worth of beef just in tenderloins. You're going to get whole strip loin for you to cut strip steaks. You're going to get probably 5 to 8 pounds of strip loin. That's going to be about $70, $80 worth of beef. You're going to get a third-ish of a whole rib roast. Today, what you're going to get is almost $100 worth of rib roast. In those 3 or 4 things, I just spent your $500 lab fee.
Yeah.
Now we add to it everything else that comes in the semester. You can see the syllabus yourself. No, you're not going to get a whole 200-pound dress pig pick up and you're going to break down on your kitchen table. But you'll get a whole loin. You might get whole set of ribs and you have to break down, baby backs or St. Louis or, something like that. I want you to have at least 2, maybe 3 primal pieces of the pig that you will break down to retail use. That's really what we do in meat and seafood. You're learning the primal cuts of these different animals, and then you're taking the primal cuts. You'll take a whole pork tenderloin, and there are different pieces. You'll break it down. Maybe you'll get a bone-in butt or a bone-in shoulder, and we want to break apart different pieces of it. And that's the whole purpose of this class. You are going to spend, we are going to spend for each of you about $1,000 for meat and seafood. When you go to food 3 and you go to food 4, each of those classes, you're at about $600 to $700 worth of product for each person in those classes. So your lab fees kind of balance out. What else you want to know? Bueller?
I think I'm done this time.
Juanita, stop asking questions. It's time to go eat dinner.
So listen, for real, y'all know how to communicate with me. You know, I'll answer a text as soon as I can get to it. I'll answer an email as quickly as I can, as quickly as I get to it. You know, I try to do that within 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes it's quicker. If a question does arise, something doesn't make sense, or whatever the case may be, you need to get a hold of me. Y'all know how to do it. Have a blessed evening. Have a good week. Have a good weekend, even though this is just the middle of the week. Get to all your studies and get this week finished. So that's one more week out of the way. Good luck in everything else that you're doing in your other classes. And I'll see you again next week.
All right, good night.
Bye, Chef.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.